Dollar dominance, that I always come back and say, well, where else are you going to go, right? And you definitely see that. And you see that, and honestly, and you see it, right? You see, like, when when Russia was taken away from SWIFT, you now see contracts being done. China and Russia are operating in the yuan.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's great to have you here with me today. I hope you're doing awesome wherever you are in the world right now. So today, we're diving into some exciting XRP news that I know you've been waiting for. Now, I mentioned several ETFs launching this week in my previous video, but I actually missed one important one. 21 Shares is also going live this week, and there might even be a few more coming along. Here's the really cool part. Grayscale and Franklin Templeton already went live today. And get this, we now have this amazing ETF tracker where you can actually watch the money flowing into these spot XRP ETFs in real time. You can check it out at etf.xrpmarket.com. I'll put that link in the description for you. This is getting really interesting, and I can't wait to break down what this means for XRP holders like us.
All right, so check this out. This is what the tracker looks like right now. Now, I'm actually recording this on a Sunday, so you can see the market status shows closed. But here's the thing. This tracker runs in real time, and it's going to be updating and fluctuating throughout every trading day. I've been seeing so many people in the comments and across social media just guessing about these ETF inflows. So when I found this tracker, I was like, this is absolutely incredible. I had to jump on here and share it with you guys immediately. But wait, there's more. This next part really caught my attention. Merrick over at Ripple just dropped this statement, and honestly, it feels like he's laying out the entire roadmap for where we're headed. He's saying the digital future doesn't need these random, scattered solutions. It needs one unified infrastructure. And guess what? Ripple is building exactly that. They're creating the infrastructure that's going to allow global finance to move completely on-chain. Think about what they're offering here. Real-time cross-border payments using XRP and RLUSD right on the XRP Ledger. They've got custody and bank-grade security for managing private keys and digital assets. Tokenization, basically turning real-world assets into super liquid digital tokens on the XRP Ledger. Plus, institutional-level prime brokerage for clearing, financing, and over-the-counter trading across all digital assets. And here's the kicker. We still have Real, G-Treasury, and Palisade waiting to officially join this ecosystem. Re is basically telling us the future looks absolutely incredible for both Ripple and XRP. Now here's what really got my attention. This statement came completely out of nowhere. To me, it feels like he's hinting that something major might be coming down the pipeline.
Now, Ripple's CTO David Schwartz has been saying this for years. XRP was literally built to replace global finance as we know it. And you know what? He's absolutely right. Think about it. Everything we're seeing happen in the markets right now, all these institutional moves, all this regulatory clarity we're finally getting, XRP was designed for exactly this moment. It's like they saw the future coming from miles away. The entire world is racing toward this digital transformation, and guess who's sitting right at the front of the pack? That's right, XRP. This is exactly why I've been telling you that when you're holding XRP, you're literally holding a piece of the future in your hands. So let's talk about where this could all be heading. XRP price prediction. What should we realistically expect by 2030? Because let me tell you, the momentum we're seeing right now is building faster than I think most people realize.
So banks and institutions are clearly positioning themselves for XRP integration, which is huge. But here's what really gets under my skin. I absolutely hate these price prediction articles, and let me tell you why. These articles always try to make you think that XRP is just going to sit there doing nothing until 2030. Like seriously? They want you to believe the price will stay exactly where it is for the next 5 years, and then magically explode at the end. Think about how ridiculous that sounds. If that were true, why would anyone invest in 2025? You'd just wait until December 2029 and jump in right before the big move, right? Here's what these articles should actually be telling you. The price is going to change rapidly over time. We're talking about dramatic price movements over the next couple of years because everything is accelerating right now. The new financial system isn't some distant dream anymore, it's practically knocking on our door. Now, they do ask an interesting question. What would 1,000 XRP tokens be worth by 2030? Their math is simple. If XRP hits $1,000 per token, then 1,000 tokens would be worth $1 million. Pretty straightforward. But here's my take. Let's first focus on getting to $100. And honestly, I think there's a really good chance that could happen much sooner than people expect, especially if we start seeing real scarcity in this market. You know what's crazy? There are tons of people who believe that in this current cycle, I'm talking about the next 3 months or so, XRP could actually shoot well above $1,000. Now, would I love to see that happen? Absolutely! But here's the thing. If people are giving you a time frame of just 3 months, we really don't have long to wait to see if they're right. But seriously, when I see these predictions stretching all the way out to 2030, I just think it's completely ridiculous. Look how much everything has changed just in the past year alone. Everything shifted when Russia dropped that bombshell back in 2022. Remember when they announced their central bank digital currency? That was the moment when I knew the timeline had completely changed. Everything just started moving at warp speed. I actually called this back in 2022. I told you guys that we could basically cut 2 full years off that 2030 prediction everyone kept throwing around. My honest opinion? We're going to see mass adoption happening by 2028, maybe even sooner. Now let's talk about what's happening in Congress right now because this could be huge for crypto. There's this article discussing what Congress still needs to get done this year, and they're focusing on that market structure bill we've all been waiting for. Here's where it gets a bit frustrating though. They're saying if Congress doesn't get this bill passed soon, we're probably looking at waiting until after the midterm elections. That's a pretty big delay. Now, I was under the impression that we were actually on track to get this thing passed by Christmas, with it landing on the president's desk sometime in early January next year. But here's the annoying part. This article doesn't even tell us if that timeline is still realistic or not. It's like they're giving us half the story and leaving us hanging. Are we still on track, or has something changed? That's what I really want to know, and I'm sure you do too. So here's what we really need to watch for. We absolutely have to see that bill hit the president's desk early, and I'm talking about maybe the first week of January at the latest. Because if it doesn't happen then, you know what's going to happen. They're just going to kick this can down the road again, like they always do. And if that happens, we're probably looking at waiting until February or March at the earliest for any real regulatory clarity. That's assuming they don't find another excuse to delay it even further. Look, I'm just tired of the back and forth. I want Washington to actually get something meaningful done for once. And here's the thing. This market structure bill is absolutely fantastic news for utility-driven cryptocurrencies like XRP. This is exactly the kind of regulation we've been waiting for. So fingers crossed they can actually pull it together and get this thing passed by the end of this year. We really need this momentum to keep moving forward. But speaking of momentum, let's talk about something really exciting. XRP is officially entering what I like to call the value capture era, and this could change everything.
All right, so this insight comes from Bitwise, and it's absolutely fascinating. Here's what they're saying. Tokens like XRP were originally created during a time when the regulatory environment was super hostile. Back then, if you tried to implement aggressive value capture features, you were basically asking for trouble from regulators. So what did most projects do? They played it safe and went with these basic, governance-only designs. Pretty smart move at the time, honestly. But here's where it gets exciting. Now that we're finally getting some regulatory clarity, these networks can start implementing all the features they couldn't before. We're talking about staking, fee capture, token burns, all the stuff that directly benefits us as token holders. Bitwise puts it perfectly. Most of today's tokens were created when value capture was basically regulatory suicide. They had to go with these vague, governance-style designs just to survive. But under this new regulatory climate we're seeing, all of that is getting completely unwound. And get this, as reported today, the XRP Ledger is actively exploring staking and other value capture mechanisms. But here's the brilliant part. They're doing it without messing with what makes XRP so special. The speed, the low fees, and the decentralized governance. Their goal is genius. Align the network's success directly with what's good for us token holders, creating a sustainable long-term economic model for XRP. So here's what David Schwartz is working on right now, and this is where it gets really interesting. He's developing this 2-layer consensus model. Layer 1 stays exactly as it is. XRP remains lightning fast, dirt cheap, secure, with payments happening in 3 to 5 seconds. But then there's this second layer, where smart contracts live, where staking happens, where all the advanced features exist. I'm honestly so excited to see where this goes. Just imagine, you hold your XRP, and every month you're earning additional rewards just for holding it, with zero risk of losing your original XRP. That's passive income at its finest.
That's exactly the kind of future I'm looking forward to. But speaking of exciting news, check this out. XRP just officially claimed the #1 spot on Korea's largest exchange, completely overtaking Bitcoin. Can you believe that? Look at these volume numbers. They are absolutely crushing it. South Korea has fallen head over heels for XRP, and honestly, it shows in their trading volume every single day. And you know what's really cool about this? This explains something I bet you've noticed before. Have you ever woken up in the morning and seen that XRP had this nice little pump overnight while you were sleeping? Well, here's exactly why that happens. While most of us here in the United States are getting our beauty sleep, our friends over in Korea are wide awake and absolutely going to town buying XRP. They're not slowing down at all. It's like having this 24/7 support system on the other side of the world. While we're dreaming about XRP gains, they're out there actually making them happen. Pretty amazing when you think about it. The demand over there just keeps climbing, which is incredible to see. But now, I want to talk about something that caught my attention. There's this claim floating around about XRP holders potentially earning up to 20% APY through some fully audited, revenue-driven staking protocol built specifically for the XRP Ledger. Now hold on a second, I need to pump the brakes here and give you some real talk. If someone's promising you 20% APY, that's a massive red flag in my book. I don't care how they package it or what fancy words they use, that money has to come from somewhere, and I guarantee you it's probably coming from some pretty risky ventures. Look, I've always been straight with you about this stuff. Once you start seeing APY numbers higher than 4% or 5%, you need to start asking questions. When it gets to 6%, 7%, 8%, that's when the risk really starts piling up. But 20%? Come on, that just seems completely far-fetched to me. Here's my honest opinion. I think this kind of offer is going to be extremely risky, and I'm worried a lot of people are going to end up losing their XRP chasing these unrealistic returns. Just be careful out there. This actually comes from Black Swan Capitalist, so take that for what it's worth. But let's shift gears to something really interesting. Franklin Templeton CEO just sounded a major alarm. He's saying the dollar's dominance is being systematically chipped away, and the world urgently needs a sovereign, neutral, free-floating currency that can work with all the others. And guess what? That's exactly what XRP and Ripple's entire infrastructure provide. This is huge validation from a major traditional finance player. Let me play this clip for you so you can hear it straight from him.
Look, dollar dominance, I always come back and say, well, where else are you going to go, right? So start with that. And, you think about the reserve currency, you're looking for stability, you're looking for strong economies, you're looking for a trust. You have to have a free-floating currency, capital, you can't have a lot of capital controls. So I don't think there's a question about the dollar dominance. I think there's a question about how much it gets chipped away, right? And you definitely see that. And you see that, and honestly, I actually think there's a lot of discussion about how tariffs and can you trust the U.S. has impacted it. But I actually go back to, in talking to some central banks, when Russia invaded the Ukraine and the U.S. froze assets of Russia in U.S. dollar, there was this, this could be us. And so I actually think it started a little bit there where people said, okay, we need to start to diversify this a bit. And then you've obviously had the comments on, how can we trust the U.S. in how they behave in certain ways. And you see it, right? You see, like when when Russia was taken away from SWIFT, you now see contracts being done. India's buying oil from Russia in rupee, denominated invoicing. China and Russia are operating in the yuan. So that's the chipping away component. You still have the dollar dominance.
And that's exactly why they're desperately trying to push the dollar into even more places using stablecoins, basically creating digital versions of the dollar. They want to get into markets they could never reach before, all to keep that global dominance alive. But here's where it gets really interesting. She mentioned something crucial about SWIFT. Remember when Russia got kicked off SWIFT? That was like a wake-up call for every BRICS country. They immediately started scrambling to find an alternative. And guess what they did? They adopted this system called MBridge and turned it into BRICS Pay, which was actually created by the Bank for International Settlements. But here's the kicker that most people don't realize. MBridge was built using Ripple's technology. Mind-blowing, right? And get this. Ripple already has established rails in practically every single BRICS country. It's like they saw this moment coming from miles away. XRP was literally designed for exactly what's happening right now. Think about it. Inside the BRICS alliance, China doesn't fully trust Russia. Russia has issues with India, and so on. There's all this political tension. So when they need to send money back and forth, having a neutral trust layer like XRP is absolutely perfect. But here's what makes XRP truly brilliant. It lets every country keep using their own currency while still being able to trade globally. XRP becomes this amazing equalizer that levels the playing field for literally every country in the world. Picture this. Any country could create their own currency and still transact with the United States using it. Their currency goes in, converts through XRP, and comes out as a digital dollar on the other side. And it works perfectly in both directions. That's what makes XRP so incredibly powerful. It gives every nation the ability to maintain their monetary sovereignty while still participating in global trade. Does that make sense? So any country out there could launch their own currency tomorrow, and they'd still be able to do business with America or anyone else. It's like having a universal translator, but for money. Now, speaking of risks, here's something that might surprise you. The biggest threat in crypto isn't actually hackers.
And the very first thing they mention is something we've all heard before. Not your keys, not your coins. And honestly, this couldn't be more true in today's market. Look, everyone always tells you to get your crypto off the exchanges, and there's a really good reason for that. But it's not just about exchange security. It's also about protecting yourself from scams. And let me tell you, most of these scams work because people fall for things that sound way too good to be true. That's why I'm always reminding you guys, nobody is doubling your XRP bag, period. Ripple isn't doing any airdrops. You need to keep your crypto safe because this is your path to financial freedom, and you can't let someone else control that journey. Here's something most people don't think about. Nobody really knows what's happening behind the scenes at these exchanges. Personally, I would never leave my crypto sitting on an exchange. I want to be in complete control of my assets. And here's why this is so important. Think about what happens every single time we hit a new all-time high. What's the first thing that happens? The exchanges crash. We saw it with Bitcoin last year, and I guarantee you we're going to see it with XRP before the end of this year. Picture this. XRP is absolutely flying, hitting new all-time high after new all-time high, and you can bet that Uphold is going to have technical difficulties. Coinbase will be down. Kraken will be down. We see this same story play out every single time. Then what happens? The price drops by 4, 5, 6 cents, and magically the exchanges come back online. But here's the scary part for XRP. This time around, we're not talking about penny drops anymore. We could be looking at $1, $2, $3, or even $4 swings. XRP isn't moving in pennies anymore. We're seeing it move in dimes on a daily basis. Some days it jumps 50 cents. And just wait until it starts moving in full dollars as the price really takes off. Imagine this scenario. You want to take some profits at $10, but all the exchanges are down. By the time they come back online, the price has dropped to $8. You just lost $2 in gains that you'll never get back. This is exactly the kind of thing I know regulations are going to fix. It's going to completely change how exchanges operate. But honestly, I think we're going to see major bottlenecks on a lot of these platforms. You know what's interesting? I think banks might actually become the crypto exchanges of the future if they're smart enough to embrace this technology. It's hard to predict exactly where we'll be in a year or two, but if traditional banks don't get on board, they're going to get completely left behind. And I know for a fact that some banks are already positioning themselves to become the crypto exchanges of tomorrow. But here's the beautiful thing about XRP. You can also just transact directly on the XRP Ledger. You can convert XRP right there on the ledger and connect your wallet directly to it. That's what makes the XRP Ledger so incredible. And it's exactly why holding custody of your own crypto is so powerful.
Until all of this plays out, just remember to stay patient, stay positive, and let's build this wealth together. All right, everyone, that's going to wrap up today's video. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching. I genuinely appreciate you being part of this community. I'll catch you in the next one, and have an awesome night.